Welcome back to the GTN Show, and this is a big week in the world of GTN because we have not one but two versus videos coming for you.
We do indeed. We've got a versus between swimming and running where we'll see which one burns the most calories. We also have a versus between Heather and myself, which we filmed out in Lanzarote, up a climb, runner versus cyclist in a real head-to-head challenge. Pretty exciting stuff, so stay tuned for that coming this weekend.
Yeah, but taking things back to the rest of the triathlon world, we are going to be discussing the fastest Ironman courses. But on the flip side of that, and with a slightly slower course in mind, we've got news about a chap called Anders, who is planning to take on the Ironman distance in the Antarctic.
Yeah, and not forgetting, we also have quite an exciting giveaway from our partners, Park Tool, who are going to be, well, helping you hopefully through the winter months if you do win them. If you are in the winter as well, I must add. And also we've got some exciting race results to come and some photos from you guys.
Now, it is coming to that time of year when many of you are starting to think about your goals. We're getting challenges locked in, or certainly events that we can think about for the 2020 season. Many of you might have set your sights on something. A few of you might even have entered one too.
Yeah, but for those that are still undecided, we thought we could help you out a little today. Now, we know that there's a certain appeal out there for the faster courses, a chance to set an Ironman personal best perhaps. So we've sought the help of Torsten Rad, who is the Ultra Triathlon Analyst from Rating, and together we've selected a handful of the fastest courses so that you can go and do just that if that's what you're after.
Yep, so let's start with the quickest one on average, which is Ironman Barcelona. This event takes place every year around about the start of October and has been going for some 6 years now, and without fail churns out some incredibly quick times. In fact, the average finishing time for Ironman Barcelona is 11 hours, 39 minutes and 4 seconds. And if you are familiar with looking at Torsten's tri rating system, where he kind of takes like a control arbitrary value for an Ironman distance, well, Ironman Barcelona gives you a plus 23 minutes and 5 second value.
Yeah. But it is worth noting that this is a big event with almost 3,000 athletes hitting that start line, but with the standard Kona slot allocation of around 40 slots for the Ironman World Championships. So yes, it is a good fast course. It's a great course if you're after a PB, but possibly a poorer choice if you are after that Kona slot because the times and the age groups are so competitive.
Yeah, well, now moving on to our next event, which is Ironman Tallinn. Now, this event takes place in August, and although on paper there is very little to separate it from Ironman Barcelona. In fact, this last year's race was a female pro-only race won by the UK's Corinne Abraham in a time of 8:55, which of course is a very impressive sub-9 finish, but not necessarily as quick as some of the other races at the front of the race. But as an overall average, it is a quick field.
Yeah, now we can't say how much of this is the course or perhaps even down to just the standard of athletes that turn up at this race, but the impression we get from looking at these results is it's pretty darn quick. Now, those in the US, you will be pleased to hear the next on our list is Ironman Florida.
This event takes place in November, and although there hasn't been a pro race there since 2014, this year's event was won by Joe Skipper in an incredible time, and he lowered that course record down to a whopping 7 hours, 46 and 28 seconds, which is definitely moving some. But the pros aside, I do know a number of athletes who've managed to set new personal best time at Ironman Florida over the years.
Yeah, and it is described as a flat course, which I'm not arguing with, but I have heard from some experienced athletes that it is somewhat rolling. So by that I just mean like some slight rollers in the course, but that can really benefit or be an advantage to those faster athletes on the course because they can carry that speed through those rollers and on. So what we've actually seen from the results is it really favors those front pack racers, those faster athletes, and we see some noticeable differences in times between them and those further back, which is definitely worth bearing in mind if you are considering this race.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point that I've not thought of before. But moving on, and our next event is Ironman Brazil. This takes place in May, and it has an average finishing time of 11 hours and 46, so still pretty quick. And it used to be the championship race, should I say, for the South American continent, but it has now moved back to the standard 40 slots for Kona that most Ironmans around the world offer.
Yeah, and this year in 2019, it was Andy Potts that took the male pro win in an impressive time of 8:02. Sarah Piano took the women's pro win in 8:40, and then the age group overall win was also in an impressive time of 8:40, which is hardly surprising given that the total elevation change during the 180 Ks on the bike is just 332 meters.
That really isn't very much at all, is it, Mark? Well, talking about flat courses, we're moving on to our final one, which is Ironman Copenhagen. This event takes place in August, and it is a European Ironman that has a very large field and another extremely flat and fast course. And it also offers 40 slots to get you to Hawaii. And notably, this year, it was the last chance on the continent of Europe to be able to do that, meaning it was hotly contested.
Yeah, and with that, times are consistently fast in Copenhagen. This year, the women's pro win was taken by Annie Haug in an incredible time of 8:31, and the overall age group win, wait for it, 8:19.
Wow.
Yeah. Now Thorsten actually gives this a try rating of plus 20 minutes and 51 seconds.
Yeah, so on that note, we thought, what do you guys think? Would you prefer to race a fast course, a challenging course, or maybe another type of terrain? Well, let us know, please. You can do that by clicking on that link just up there above my head.
And now back to last week's poll where we were interested whether you ever train fast, and we got some interesting results here.
We did, Mark. Now, we had a unanimous 82% say yes, that they have trained fasted, and that meant that 18% of you said no, you haven't trained fasted.
Yeah, but we definitely weren't short of questions in our comment section, so we thought we'd run through a few of them here. Now, Denstone said, do be careful, you can burn yourself out. It's taken him months to recover from this. He said, 1 day fast is okay, but I've tried 3-day fast and it's absolutely destroyed me. Now, just gonna step in here. A 3-day fast is not what we're talking about with fasted training. We're literally talking about a momentary, just doing some exercise in the morning before breakfast and then having your breakfast. So not skipping meals in any way, shape or form. We're still getting the same calories in during the day, and it's just shifting that energy source that we're using.
Yeah, and it's just a little bit about rearranging how you structure your day to be able to allow that fasted training to have happened, right?
Absolutely, so we're never putting too much stress on the body. Simon Taylor said, you burn more fat during, but no difference in the amount of fat during the day. I prefer not to hit the wall that early. Now, I can't say as a scientist whether that's definitely true, but again, this is back to what we said in the last question. Actually, yes, the idea behind it all is that you're trying to shift the energy source, so you're burning more fat during the exercise. I'm not saying anything about that for the rest of the day, and make sure that you do eat straight after, so you don't hit the wall that early in the day.
Yeah, now our next one comes in from Matthew Roberts, and Matthew said, the first workout of the day is always fasted, not because I like it, but because I have to. Always worried not eating was hurting, so I'm happy to see that there's hope. Well, we're glad that we've been able to point you in the direction of that study.
Absolutely. Next one from Molly Wilmot said, you should check out Dr. Stacey Sims, which I have actually before, in regards to fasted training for females. Definitely not recommended for women out there. Now, I couldn't agree more in terms of females being wary about doing fasted training or any sort of weight loss. Now, again, this brings us back to the whole idea about fasted training. We're not condoning weight loss. If there is something you want to do, seek professional advice. And also perhaps if you are wanting to do fasted training, it's merely about shifting the energy zones in which we're trying to tap into during exercise. In fact, there isn't actually really any solid scientific research or results out there that say that doing fasted training or trying to shift to using fat as an energy source does mean that you should lose weight. So it's just something to be mindful of. We're not condoning that in any means.
Yeah, absolutely. Now moving on, we've got one here from Glenn Mitchell, and he says, how often should you do fasted sessions to get benefit? I do one fasted bike session in roughly zone 2 of about 75 minutes each week. Is this enough to be worthwhile? Well, we'd say that that is enough to be worthwhile. But yeah, no, good work, Glenn. Keep doing it. You're on the right track there.
And final one from Andre Budiman said, can you explain why when fasting I can still run about 15 kilometers easy, but when playing in the playground with my son, I feel so tired? Yes, I can, because running easy at a nice conversational pace, zone 1, zone 2, whatever. When you start playing with your kid in the playground, you're then spiking in intensity, and that's requiring a little bit more from your body, and fat can't produce that energy that quickly. So you're then wanting muscle glycogen, and if you are fasted, your body's going to struggle. So that is why. But thanks ever so much for all the questions and do sending them in. We're now for our exciting park tool giveaway, which has probably come at a very good time of year for a lot of you out there because you're probably wanting to clean your bike quite a lot. We've got basically the ultimate cleaning setup.
A lot of stuff here, Mark.
Yeah, let's start at this one, probably the most obvious. This is their home repair stand. So you can attach your bike in a number of different ways. Got lots of different settings. We loosen this off and we can rotate this around. Pretty cool. But then to help you with that, we've got this bike cleaning brush set. So 4 different brushes for cleaning the chain, the cassette, the bike.
And what's this thing called?
A sleeping hub, I believe.
I like that. I thought that was good. Yeah, really useful though, aren't they?
No, they are good because actually comes in handy when using
the Cyclone chain scrubber, which is definitely something you want to be able to use to keep all that muck off of your chain, which is really easy to get clogged up with at this time of year.
Yeah, so what you do, pop your wheel out when you've got it in the stand, and then you can pop this in, which is a sleeping hub, so you can wrap the chain around there. It acts a little bit like the cassette would, and then you can use your chain scrubber.
No, it's a brilliant giveaway here, actually. I mean, I must say, all joking aside, I've had one of those stands for years. They're just brilliant for being able to clean your bike easily after a ride.
Yeah, brilliant. We got 4 sets to give away, so do get involved in the description below this video and enter in for that. Good luck.
Moving on now to our try new section, and I guess appropriately with weather of winter nature really kicking in now in the UK, and we're feeling a little bit cold. Well, not nearly as cold as the person we're just about to chat about, because Anders Hoffman is going to be not taking part in an official event or competition as such, but he's going to be completing his very own Iceman that he has dubbed it. Now, what is this? Well, it is the Ironman distance that he is going to take part in or complete on the frozen ice and snow of Antarctica.
Yeah, now, this is pretty mental. It's going to take part during a 33-day expedition, starting from, well, in a boat from Ushuaia in Argentina, across the Drake Passage to the Antarctica, where I assume he will then start. Now, just to give you a couple of stats here, the water temperature will be between -2 and 1 degrees Celsius. Air temperature will be between -15 and -5 degrees Celsius.
Tropical.
Yes, you might be thinking, this guy is mental. Will he even possibly be able to do this?
Well, actually, Anders has got some form because he's already completed the half Iceman. Now, he did that in May of this year, 2019. He did that in the northernmost city in the world, in Svalbard region of Norway, should I say. So he's already gone through the motions to really start getting preparations in place for what he's going to have to encounter in Antarctica.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing project, actually, and to get this off the ground running, obviously he's got to have a big team behind him. So they've managed to secure around 400,000 euros for the whole project. Obviously, half of that is actually going to go towards this Antarctica expedition, where they're hoping to raise awareness of the environmental changes. So there's actually quite a nice message going with this. So we'd love to keep track of all of this. So Anders, please do send some footage in to us. We have got a couple of videos which he sent to us of actually him struggling across the snow. So yeah, best of luck to you, and we're very much looking forward to following in February.
Now, sticking with the wintry, chilly theme, because the ITU, or the International Triathlon Union, have just announced news of their very first Winter World Cup, which is going to be held in January in the Chinese resort of Harbin. Now, winter triathlon involves running, mountain biking, and cross-country skiing, all on the snow. Now, it's definitely something that's always caught my eye, because I've never been able to do it, but I'm not even sure if I will ever do it. But it is definitely an event that's on the up. It only started in 1997 with the very first World Championships in Italy, and they are going to be back in Italy for the World Championships this year, and the European Championships will be held in Romania. So definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, great to hear. Now, staying within Asia, actually, we have some rather positive news ahead of the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games with regards to triathlon and open water swimming, because actually back in 2017, there were some reports after some testing that the bacteria levels were through the roof. You definitely did not want to be swimming in that water. By March of 2018, they managed to get those levels down, so they were actually still double that was expected and acceptable. They put some underwater screens in place to try and bring that down further. Even by August, they still weren't acceptable for the Para-Triathlon World Cup to actually take place in the water. So they had to cancel the swim for that. But they have recently reported that they've managed to get those levels right down, and fingers crossed, it remains that way, so it'll all be okay for the Olympic Games.
Yeah, because nobody wants to have an icky tummy.
No.
So now on to race news, and we had some exciting races over the weekend. Now first up was Ironman Western Australia from Busselton. Now we had Alistair Brownlee returning to an Ironman start list for the third time this year, and I guess he wanted to put to bed the disappointments he had of Kona. Well, he definitely managed to do that. He was basically a gun-to-tape winner of this race. He swam in the front group of 3, he then came off the bike with just one other athlete, Sam Appleton, and then he just charged away on the marathon. He managed to run a 2:43 to go on to break Terenzo Bozzoni's 2016 course record by some 5 minutes, set a new course record of 7 hours and 45 minutes, which is one of the fastest times that's ever been recorded over the Ironman distance. So hats off to Alistair, that's him, got his Kona qualification already sorted for 2020. Now in second place, another good story as well, because we had Matt Barton from Australia. Now he tried 3 or 4 times, I think it was last year, to qualify for Kona and missed out on every opportunity by 1 slot. So delighted to see him take second place, and third went to fellow Australian Tim Van Berkel.
Yeah, and interesting you say about Alistair punching his ticket for Kona. That means he can kind of put that to rest now, potentially focus on Tokyo.
Who knows?
And then pick it up after. Hey, it'd be interesting to see. Well, similarly on the women's side, we had Teresa Adam leading from the start and pretty much all the way through to the finish. In fact, by doing so, she set a bike course record and an overall course record, breaking Carolyn Stefan's previous course record by over 10 minutes. In second place, we had Sarah Piano, and in third place, it was Gurutze Freitas.
Now, moving on to another iconic event, it is the Patagon race, part of the X-Tri series of events around the world where you can qualify for the Norseman event that he knows all about. So this was down in Chile at the weekend. Now, we don't know much about the details of the race other than the winners, and we're delighted to say friend of the channel Tim Don took the victory down there in his first ever foray into adventure racing. So who knows, we might have another Norseman athlete that we know racing next year. And on the women's side, it was Flora College, who was second in the Norseman that Mark did this year, and she took the victory in Chile.
Yeah, now on to the Ultraman World Championships, which take place actually over on the Big Island in Hawaii. Now I've got a few stats for you here because it is a big event. It is a lot of miles. So they do a total of 10 kilometers of swimming, 421 kilometers of cycling, and 84 kilometers of running. Now it's actually completed over 3 days, but that doesn't mean it's easy because the first day is a 10-kilometer swim followed by a 145 kilometer bike. Day 2, 276 kilometers on the bike, and then the final day, all the running in one 84-kilometer run.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before countless of times. I really struggle to wrap my head around these ultra endurance events. So hats off to all those competitors, especially those harsh conditions of Hawaii. Now, on the women's side of things, after all those miles and miles and miles of racing, it came down to a very close affair, neck and neck almost, with Tara Norton from Canada, who went on to secure her second Ultraman World Championship victory with only an 8-minute winning margin over Connie Dobin. So hats off to you.
Well, on the men's side, it was Jordan Bryden, actually the Ultraman Canada winner, that led from the start. On day 2, had a very close contest with South African Rob Gray, who really pushed him. But on day 3, Jordan Bryden really pushed ahead to secure that win, with Rob Gray taking second.
Right, so now we're gonna move on to a selection of the photos that you send in to us each week. So first up, we've got one here from Fergal, and rather stately looking picture, this one, isn't it?
It's rather grand. He's got his 2016 Specialized Shiv Pro in front of the African Museum in Belgium.
Yeah, in Tervuren, I think is how you pronounce it. Yeah, sorry for the mispronunciation there. Yeah, there's a cold late November day, temperature barely above freezing with cold wind, but the view of the Tervuren makes it all the worthwhile. Well, I can relate to the cold November days, that's for sure.
And he's actually said he's got the Tri-Rig Omni front setup, which if we zoom in, you can see he's got the, I believe it's like, he's actually changed the base bar. I may be wrong in saying that, but then it's got this like monopole coming, mono riser stack, I guess, and then into the aero bars. We've got, you know, fairly unique shapes and stuff. So, yeah, really cool. Nice to see
something different, definitely. Now this is a bit of a change in tack now from that Shiv onto Pugs, as he's called himself. I'm saying it's he, I think so. It is Pinnacle Act Tross 8. Now it's not a bike I'm familiar with, but it looks like a very suitable cyclocross gravel type bike, would you say?
Yeah.
Using it for his commute to work. He says it's a lovely wet 9-mile commute in East Grinstead here in the UK, into work each way, 9 miles, and doing that at the moment. Also trying to run it once or twice a week too, so that's a lot of miles.
Now I've just noticed, actually just zooming in here, I saw some cables going down into this high five bottle, because I believe he's probably got some like exposure lights, very bright lights on the front because he's commuting, and he's got the cable for the battery, because they do need quite a lot of power, and that battery is in that high five bottle.
That's a good hack.
That is a very good hack.
As a GTN.
Well done, Pugs. Great stuff. The next one from Jamie, and he is, well, he's in his Hartlepool tri-suit, but he's actually doing the Laguna Phuket triathlon.
Yeah, it was just last week. We've said this before, we'd have loved to have done that race.
Yeah, but yeah, great to see you doing that. And do let us know actually in the comments below how you got on.
Yeah.
And of course, do send in all your photos as well using the photo upload. We'd love to chat through some more. We're now time for the GTN Caption Competition. Last week we had a photo from the Otolo Malta race, which actually went through Popeye Village. And we've got some swim runners high-fiving Popeye as they went through. So we had some good captions.
We did, and starting this off with Thomas K, who says, Popeye loves spinach. Spinach is known to contain a lot of iron. So basically, what I'd say to Popeye is, you are an Ironman. Now, I like what you did there, but it's the wrong type of racing. this is
yeah, true. Stephen Alport said, how much further to the spinach? Nice.
Yeah, and the next one is from Chris Debonair, who says, with all his spinach, Popeye is sure to be an Ironman. Again, not Ironman. But what about his girlfriend, Otulu Oil? Now, we like that because his girlfriend's normally olive oil, is that right?
Yeah.
So anyway, a little bit plain good.
Tim Giles, though, which is the winner this week, gave us a song. He said, I'm Popeye the swim run man, I'm Popeye the swim run fan, I'm strong to the finish because he eats me spinach, I'm Popeye the swim run man. But you are the winner. Get in touch and you can get your GTN cap. Now for this week's caption comp photo, and this is actually from a few weeks back from the Miyazaki World Cup, and this is Ayueda, who won the race.
Yeah, I mean, and got a rather nice cake for her efforts. Now, one can only presume it was her birthday, perhaps, but...
If you know, let us know in the comments below and give us your caption. So yeah, best of luck to you. Well, that's it for the GTN show this week. It's been great fun. We've also, don't forget, we've got this Versus weekend coming up, so some exciting videos for you to watch. Yeah, now don't forget, it is almost Christmas. It's time to start thinking about some presents, so why not dip into our shop and have a look at towels, hoodies, swimming caps, there's all the cycling kit, t-shirts too, so yeah, have a look in there. And hopefully you have enjoyed our video, so please hit that thumb up like button, find the globe on screen to make sure you don't miss out on any more videos from us here at GTN. And if you want to see a video about my first triathlon bike, well, you can find that here. And if you'd like to find out a little bit more about strength and conditioning, or S&C, for triathletes, then you can see that and get a nice program with it by clicking just down here.